Hello. The quality isn't the best, but I just decided it just is what it is. It's time for me to stop procrastinating. Excuse me. So, a few things happened today, and a few things have kind of been going on in my mind and just in my everyday life that I figured writing it down wasn't enough. I wanted to make a video and might even post this video, but I wanted to seem like, very intimate, because I make videos like this all the time, just talking to myself, just me and God. But anyway, so a few things have been going on, and it's actually a few things that I've been wanting to make videos about and post them about, because I feel like they're important and I feel like other people are going through similar things. So for example, today I woke up and I was supposed to be going to work today. I was on the schedule to be going to work today, but some things happened, and one appointment had to be canceled and another appointment had to be rescheduled. So I didn't go into work today. And then keep in mind, last night I was out, but I wanted to make sure that I was home in enough time to get 8 hours of sleep, which I did. I'm still a little bit tired, so after I found out I wouldn't be going into work, I just kind of laid down for a little bit more, and I started to feel bad. I started to feel sorry for myself. I started to beat myself up a little bit, thinking in some way, how this could have been my fault, where I could have went wrong. But at the same time, I know that there is a difference between beating yourself up and taking accountability. And I definitely want to be someone who takes accountability, thinks of solutions, how next time we can move forward and learn from our mistakes and they don't get repeated. So that's something that I'm working on, because I do that quite a lot. I just kind of spiral into overthinking and feeling anxious. But all that really isn't necessary, because the bottom line is that what's done is done. And I try also to think in some ways how this could have been meant to be. Because I do think a lot of things are meant to be, or things happen for a reason. And so that's kind of how I'm going forward, trying to think about these situations. So boom, that happened today, and which is why I'm here talking to you now. I want to spend my time trying to be productive, because while I'm not going to work today, there are other things that I could be working on that are actually in the works, things that I want to talk about today, and things that I want to bring forward to my channel. So with all that being said, I am a hairstylist, a natural hairstylist. I'm a loctician, and I'm also an aspiring art therapist. So if you haven't heard of art therapy before, art therapy is basically using therapeutic art. So there are a few different types of art therapy and a few different ways that art therapy is practiced. So for example, there's non-clinical art therapy, and then there is clinical art therapy. Now, the traditional way for art therapy is clinical. You go through college, get your 4-year degree, and then traditionally you would go back to school to get your master's, earn your master's, and then either you can also become a licensed counselor along with getting your art therapy registration. If you're a licensed counselor, then you're licensed in your state, and it can be really hard, or not really hard, but it could be more difficult. You'll have to take more steps if you move to be licensed in another state to practice there, or to practice with the people who live there. Now, that's my heat coming on. Now, there's non-clinical art therapy, which is something new. It is basically, you can't really call yourself an art therapist because that's associated with the clinical side. You will call yourself something not associated with that, but still practicing using art therapeutically, if that's a word, doing therapeutic art. There you go. So, like, for instance, you may call yourself a life coach. You may call yourself a guide. You may call yourself a what were some things? Like, you call yourself an artist. You call yourself a art facilitator, things like that. So, and it's also a lot more general because there's not as many restrictions. So you can practice anywhere, you can work from anywhere, you can work from home. And so I'm working on those two things. I am currently in a program for non-clinical art therapy, and I'm also applying to a clinical art therapy program at a university. So that's a little background with me. I got my bachelor's degree in Bachelor's of Science in Electronic Media and Film Studies. So yeah, at heart, I call myself an artist. But there's, at the same time, I feel like a lot of people, myself, growing up, I kind of just thought of artists as people who draw, people who paint beautiful murals in their, or people who design. But at the same time, I feel like my niche is more so of film and photography and writing, whether that be for the screen or writing in books. I journal all the time. This is a new journal that I bought, my 5th one actually. This is part 5. And yeah, so that's what I want to bring to the art therapy space. I love working with my hands, and I love working with my mind and kind of putting that out. And that's basically what an artist is. So I had to learn that for myself, and kind of unlearn and strip away a lot of preconceived notions that I had of myself of what an artist is. Excuse me. And now I feel more comfortable. Wow. Excuse me. Now I feel more comfortable calling myself an artist. So there you go. But yeah, so going forward, a lot of the content that I want to bring forward is, one, being a loctician, and kind of putting out my knowledge of and using what I've been trained to know, and what I practice with clients as a loctician, what I inform clients of, and how I maintain their hair, how I start their locks, even with natural hair, because I also style natural hair as well. That's where my passion of hair originated from. But then I also want to bring content for what it's like to be a young black therapist, a young black woman art therapist. Art therapy already is not, to my knowledge, is not that known. People know about counselors, people know about therapists, but people don't really, it's not really as talked about for art therapy. Even finding colleges that have art therapy programs and that are accredited programs is really hard to find across the country. Luckily, thankfully, I live in a state that is accredited, has an accredited program, and it's right down the street from me, so that's a blessing from God. Another thing that I want to bring forward is establishing or just my journey with God, because I find that my journey with God is just different. It's different, and I don't know how. I know everybody has their own opinions of God. I don't know why I'm getting emotional right now, but that's something that I do. I lead my life, or try to lead my life, being close to God, listening, and forming my own personal relationship with Him that may not always be something that a lot of people agree with. To me, I feel like me and God are like this. Are there things that I want to continue to learn? Of course. I do want to do better with reading the Bible and things like that. But I do live my life trying to listen to God, trying to see God in everyday life, trying to hear God through people, hear God speak through me. So, but yeah, so I think as I go through this art therapy journey, I do feel like that's a calling of mine. And the reason I feel that way is because for the last, so I graduated in April of 2021, and before I graduated, I had been studying art therapy for at least 2 years. Now, when I say studying, I don't mean like going to class and taking art therapy classes, more so just researching art therapy. My last year before I graduated, I took all my prerequisites for the art therapy program because I knew that there were classes I would need to take in undergrad to take them to be accepted into my master's program. And so I finished those, and that's how I knew that this is something that I really wanted to do. So for example, if you're interested in art therapy, and this is something new, maybe you haven't heard before, there are prerequisites that are pretty common that you'll need if you want to go into an accredited art therapy program. So I had to take classes in drawing, painting, sculpture, and I feel like it was either ceramics or pottery, and I feel like, yeah, so those were the art classes. And then I also had to take psychology classes because, art and psychology, that's basically what art therapy is. So I also had to take classes for intro to psychology, children's psychology or developmental psychology, abnormal psychology, and I feel like there was one more. Oh, and then I think it was personal psychology. I have to go back and look at my notes. Actually, I have them right here. Should have just did that first. Yeah, art therapy prerequisites. So typically you need 18 credits in studio art, and there's typically three credits per class. So drawing, photography, painting, graphic design, and sculpture. Those are where my studio art classes. Now, they can be something different, whether you want to take ceramics, watercolor, which I took watercolor, stuff like that. And then I took 12 credits in psychology, intro to psychology, abnormal psychology, developmental psychology, and child psychology. I don't know. I'm gonna have to go back and look. But so that's 4 classes in psychology, and let's see, 18 divided by 3 is 6, so 6 credits in art or studio art. Yeah, so that's what I ended up doing. Yeah, man. And I want to do like a whole video separate what it was like one, to just graduate, because that was something. It's like the closer you get to graduation, the more you have to do. So and what I mean by that is making sure that you actually have taken all the classes to be able to graduate, because that was a whole separate thing when I tried to get my associate's degree. That didn't work out, but luckily I was able to take the credits that I did take from my associate's degree and carry that over to my bachelor's degree, which helped me so I wouldn't have to take as many general classes. Anyway, that aside, I'm now able, that's a celebration moment. I'm now able to apply to an art therapy program. And I actually did apply to an art therapy program. I applied to an art therapy program last year. But up until that point, when I submitted my application, I was just like, I don't know what I'm doing with my life. Luckily, something that is important to note, I told myself that I personally wanted to take a year gap between graduating from undergrad and starting another program at another school, because 4 years, and if you have to take more, undergrad by itself is just a lot. It's a lot. Like, keep in mind, you're going from, I went to preschool. So you're also preschool, elementary school, middle school, high school, and if you decide to go to college, that's 5 separate chapters, or I don't know, 5 separate stages of phases of school. and when I finally graduated, I was 22, going on 23 years old. So I had been in school for 23 years. 23 years? 23 years. And you telling me? I was just like, I mean, some people, they be like, go ahead and do it. That wasn't me. I was just like, I just need a break. I need a break to figure out myself, to see what it's like to not have to go to school, to see what it's like to be just working in the work field, to not have to do homework, which is a big thing that sometimes I'm still like, ooh, I don't have to do homework at the end of the day. But yeah, so in that 1 year turned to 2 years, but that's okay. These 2 years I've just learned so much. I've learned so much. I would not be a loctician today, probably. I don't know what God has written for my life, but I don't think I would be a loctician today, and have the amount of clients that I do, had I just decided to go straight from undergrad to master's. I don't think, I just wouldn't have had this time. I wouldn't have had this time to myself to travel. I wouldn't have had this time to just get to know me, because that's a whole nother thing. Because the adjustment was a lot. It was a lot for me. Coming from college, and I also lived on campus. coming from college to like, and being very involved in college, having all of your friends in the same building or within walking distance to just go visit them, always having something to do every weekend, or even every day on campus, to just like going back home to like a smaller, quieter, not college town. It's just me and my mom. It was a huge difference and a huge adjustment for me. And luckily, I did take that time, because I realized what it was is, at least I'll speak for myself, but I think sometimes what happens is we take on personalities, we take on traits of people and things that we admire, but then deep down it's like, who are you? Who am I? Is the question that I had to know. I had to get to know myself, and figure out, what do I like to do? Like, how do I like to spend my time by myself in order for me not to get lonely or bored or feel sorry for myself? So I just deep dived, or tried to deep dive into getting to know who I am. I've had my friendship circles have gotten smaller, which has never been a bad thing for me. But they're just more intimate. I explored a lot of different jobs, finding out what I like, what I don't like, and what I'm looking forward to in a career path. I've found out I go see an art therapist for my own mental health, which is great, a Black woman art therapist. So all these things that I've just been able to curate for and surround myself around, it's been great. It's honestly been great, and I would recommend taking a break. However long your break is, I promised myself 1 year, and then when that 1 year went by, that was another thing. I was feeling bad for myself. I started my locks, but anyway, a lot of stuff happened. But when that 1 year passed, I was like, I made this promise to myself, and I'm not ready. I don't feel ready, or it just, like, the time passed. I got accepted into grad school, but I got discouraged about how much it cost. I felt like I wasn't financially ready enough to commit to taking out any loans. I don't want to take out any loans if I don't have to, but that's a whole nother story. If I have to, then I have to, but I'm gonna leave that up to God. So, and all this stuff was going through my mind, and I ultimately ended up dropping all of my classes that I had registered for. So I dropped out of I dropped out. I ain't never dropped out of nothing, but I dropped out of that. I dropped out of my grad school program. How interesting. So I dropped out, and yeah, I dropped out of that program and then registered for the non-clinical digital program by Thirsty for Art. And if you follow Thirsty for Art, I'm sure you've heard about this program before. I have been following her. I've been a subscriber of hers for a while, a few years actually. So I finally took the step and paid for it, enrolled in her program, which is another thing. It's like, I just feel like everything works in divine timing, because now I get this extra break. It's like a breather. Woosah. I get this extra break to think about how exactly to make a plan, how exactly I want to structure my days, how I plan to work and go to school, how I want to implement my non-clinical art therapy and gain experience and clientele that way. And so the next time that I'm going to apply, the applications are due on March 1st of 2023. So I have this time to woosah. Everybody, I don't know if I said where I'm going, but I don't know if I should say where I'm going. If I already said it, then I already said it, but hopefully I didn't say it. But anyways, I don't know if I should say it or not. Either way, the people in my program have been amazing, which is another way that I say it's just been a godsend. I feel like God has been selectively picking the right people for me to interact with and talk to, and to help guide me in the right direction towards this program. Everybody I talked to have been really receptive at the college, at the university, and so basically I'm finding out I will have to reapply, but I've spoken to the professors, I've spoken to the advisors, I've spoken to admissions, I've spoken to a lot of people and all of them are rooting for me to enroll again, and it just means a lot to me. It means a lot. So yeah, and as I search for art therapists online, there are not a lot of art therapists out there. My own counselor was the first Black female art therapist that I had seen ever online, and then Thirsty for Art, and then there's another art therapist on YouTube. I can't exactly remember what her name is, but those are the only two art therapists of color that I've seen. They're Asian. And so yeah, I want to represent art therapists of color. I want to represent Black art therapists. I want to represent women, female art therapists, and that's who I want to do my work with. And that's not even it. That's not even it. I still really have a love for film and for writing, so hopefully you'll start to see that taking form on my channel. And I have like a weird nerdy interest in finances and so that's another thing that I will hope to bring to this channel. My own experiences with budgeting, my own experiences with investing, the knowledge that I've learned with building your credit score. So that's another thing. So there's a lot that I hope to bring. So yeah, I hope you're along for the journey. I'm along for the journey. I hope this video wasn't too long, but like I said, I want to keep it intimate as I rebrand this channel. So I hope to see you along for the ride. Okay, all right, bye.